Different perspectives, same passion. Welcome to the Coach and the Couch Potato Podcast.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to Taylor Swift's favorite number 13, as in episode 13 of the Coach and the Couch Potato. As always, I'm Jeremy the Couch Potato. Opposite side of the screen, we got Coach Slate. What is good, sir?
Nothing, man. Just got done watching the Women's National Championship. Great game. I'll get into that a little bit. I'm going to ask your permission for a quick rant when it comes to that later on in the episode. But other than that, man, it's good. Niece and nephew in town, so it's getting a lot of family time in, man. How are you doing?
We're doing good. Same thing. Just finished watching that game. And I might have to make amends with a certain female basketball player when we get to that point.
Okay.
So yeah, great game. Ready for night 2 of WrestleMania tonight.
Yeah.
Night 1, I'm not gonna lie, little underwhelming.
Yeah.
Dwayne still got it though at 51 years old.
He still got it. Last night I tuned in. In once I saw that it was on Peacock. I was like, oh gosh, I've got Peacock. So I watched it, and there was a lot of things that I went down memory lane, and I remembered exactly why I loved watching that stuff. I know we're grown men, and we're going to be talking about professional wrestling, but to see The Rock out there, man, like that was so cool. And then obviously the GOAT Lil Wayne was there, so I was pretty pumped up about that. So yeah, man, it was fun to go down memory lane watching that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and so we had Wheezy last night.
Yeah.
Sounds like Snoop's there tonight.
Yeah.
So can't go wrong there. And one of our goats from last week is heavily rumored to possibly making an appearance tonight, and the Texas Rattlesnake.
Oh.
So I was just exchanging tweets with Austin Ward from before we started recording. He's there.
That's awesome.
Him and Bill Landis from the podcast, they're both there. Yeah. Landis is a Philly guy. So but Austin Ward is a massive Cody Rhodes guy.
Okay.
And I'd ask him when I found out he was going, I told him I was jealous. I'm like, that's bucket list stuff. And he goes, well, I'm ready to riot if Cody doesn't win. So after last night, I just tweeted him because he had put a picture up. And I go, well, are you ready to riot? Because I don't think it's going to happen now. And he goes, if need be, we're on calls. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're in a really cool sports part of the year. As crazy as it sounds with no football.
Yeah,
we had the women's natty today. We've got the men's natty tomorrow.
Yep.
Our Mount Rushmore topic, the Masters, next week. And the OSU spring game next week.
Yeah.
So, obviously next weekend we will talk about that a lot more.
Yep.
We were going to do a Mount Rushmore of the best spring game performances, but Slate really made a valid point. If you're talking about all-time spring gamers at OSU, there's only one guy.
There's only one.
Bam Childress.
There's only one.
There are so many people that are going to hear this and they're going to be like, who in the Sam hell is Bam Childress?
Oh my God.
Go find the spring game highlights.
Yes. Dude, every year I would watch him and I would be like, this is the year he's going to help us out in some way, because he was just special in the spring game.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the one year, I think it was his freshman year, Michael Thomas did go off in the spring game. And I'm like, okay, Keyshawn's nephew's got it.
He did.
But, and a lot of times, obviously you see those spring game performances and they don't always materialize into either A, longevity, or B, something continued, like in the regulars. Like Kai Stokes, his freshman year.
Oh my gosh. Played out of his mind.
Yeah. Like everybody's like, oh my God, this kid's going to start as freshman. It doesn't matter who's back there. And now he's transferred. I mean, it just
And
So
one quick caveat about the spring game, and I know we're going to talk about it later in the episode. And most Buckeye fans know this. Like, don't get locked in if the quarterbacks don't look the greatest. Don't get up in arms about that. Don't get up in arms if we don't see Caleb Downs out there enough or anything like that. Like, there's still a long way to go before we get to week 1. So just want to throw that out there. I know. There's 5 quarterbacks that they've got to get through in the spring game. I don't know how they're doing it. I don't know if it's come out how they're breaking it up or if they're just doing offense and defense. So just let everything play out.
Well, and OSU, I feel like actually was kind of behind the 8 ball in making the spring game more player friendly. They always protected the quarterbacks, but other than that, it was pretty much full go for a long time until basically Urban got here.
Yeah.
And then, especially like Urban's first team, didn't have a ton of depth. Let's be honest. And so you had to protect the guys you've got. The last thing you want is a Caleb Downs or a Jack Sawyer, blowing a knee out.
Absolutely.
Especially and that's a whole other conversation. It'd be cool to get your thought on at some point. Not so much. I mean, you're starting to hear it in football, but as I start paying more and more attention to soccer, the conversation about certain types of field turf.
Yeah.
Like they said that Messi will not play in Charlotte,
for
example. So that would be a cool conversation to go down. And, with Ohio State having turf, it's there for, the good, the bad, the ugly. I know, as Marion guys, when Harding went to turf, it kind of became a pretty heated discussion.
It did.
And, do I think some of the arguments that were made at that point were a little sketch? Yeah. But some of them are legit. I mean, and now I think you're seeing the guys push back and want that more natural type surface. So yeah, you got to protect the guys, especially in a scrimmage.
Yeah. I mean, that is such a debated topic, especially in professional sports, because they have the money to have the best grass and the best fields that there are. When I was in college, we played at Tusculum University, a D2 school in Tennessee, beautiful school, beautiful campus. I believe they had like a single or double A stadium that they shared with the baseball program, like all around just top-notch facilities. But they had like true Bermuda grass. It was the best. It was the absolute best field I've ever played on because it was so well maintained. And that's awesome. But when you get into the high school sports, my last year before we got the turf at Harding, I would love to call Coach Brady and get his thoughts on this. There was a patch of the field from like the goal line on the far side towards the woods and the cemetery. There was a part probably from the goal line until about the 15 to 20 yard line that was just getting eaten up by grubs. Like you could just pull up patches of grass. And that's not the groundskeeper's faults or anything like that. It's just the way it was. So when we decided to go to turf, it made sense. It made sense. And so, yeah, that is such a tough topic. In high school, I get it because it's going to end up making you some more money and, you're going to be able to do more things and you're going to get more sports on there consistently. The weather typically isn't a factor when it comes to having the field turf, but, injuries have been shown, man, knees, ankles, Achilles issues, like those are real things that you have to consider. So it's definitely a controversial topic, but those professional teams and teams like Ohio State, man, if you got the money to have the nicest grass in the world, God, those natural fields are the best. You could take a nap on them.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And right before we got turf, I mean, that was when I was coaching youth ball.
Yeah.
And, we played a game on a Sunday in a monsoon.
Yeah.
And so, now the field is wrecked. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You had 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, freshman, JV, and varsity all playing games. And, that's not counting soccer. Obviously, there are times the band needs to practice on the football field for their markings. I mean, it's wild. So that, that'll be another thing.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of cool stuff we have pieced together
Yeah.
coming up.
Yeah.
Way excited. We don't know a lot of we haven't hammered out the details yet, but in a couple weeks, you guys are going to see a really cool concept. So
I'm extremely excited about this, man.
yeah, and there's more exciting news to potentially go with that. So so that's kind of where we're at for the week. So last week we were recording, and in true fashion, never a dull moment. And we got the breaking news about Coach Lachlan getting hired finally officially.
Yeah.
We hit on a little bit, during the episode, but the thing that stands out, I mean, we talked about his demeanor.
Yep.
But I was doing a little bit of digging, and this guy has major Southern ties.
Yes.
He's a Tennessee guy. Started out, coached at multiple high schools in Memphis. Spent a little bit of time at the University of Memphis. Then he was the director of high school relations at Florida State.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
You can never have enough guys who have those ties.
Yep.
The recruiting department got a boost. I can't think of the guy's name off the top of my head that we hired away from Bama to come be Pantoni's assistant. But now you're getting another guy who has served in a role like that. And then, goes to Western Kentucky, which is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So pretty far south still. And then Oregon, and one of the things I always look at when you hire a coach is how's the place that he's leaving? How do their fans react?
Yeah.
And Oregon fans were big mad.
Yes, they were.
Partially because A, he had signed the extension, and B, he made the soft batch cookies comment. But, we've made no bones about it as we've done this. We are big fans of the portal. We are very much pro player.
Yep.
I think, and you can correct me if you see this different. I took it as, listening to that comment over and over again. He's not saying don't transfer, for if you have a reason. He's saying don't transfer because it's too hard here.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you about that. One of the things that made Alabama so great, makes us so great, makes Georgia so great is that, everybody says this, iron sharpens iron. And every single day you're going up against the best players in the country. And so in my opinion, just like you said, I think he's just saying, don't run from that competition, because on the other side of that is greatness. And if you stick it out here, you're going to see or reap the benefits of that. I don't think he was saying like, oh, go ahead. If you're soft, if you transfer or anything like that. Like, I don't think any coach in college football right now would ever be upset for a kid doing what he felt was best for him and his family. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe that's just me being naive, but I don't think he's calling players soft. I just think iron sharpens iron. And if you're going to be a top dog at a great program, stick it out. Let's battle it out. You know what I mean? And prove your worth. And so I think that I like that mindset personally. I think it's great.
For sure. I mean, it's like Woody said, anything easy ain't worth a damn.
Exactly.
I mean, so one thing that, has jumped out to me is he didn't waste any time. And I don't know if he reset the running back board for 25. It's felt like the running back recruiting for this class was 3 guys.
Yep.
And then everybody else. Jordan Davison from California, and then the 2 Ohio guys, Marquise Davis, Bo Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 3 names you've heard the whole time. There's a little train of thought out there that Jackson is better served to play linebacker eventually. Ohio State's taken 2, at least 2. No doubt. The obvious, as soon as Lachlan got hired, you started to see crystal balls, RPMs for Davison. Davison is the big national fish.
Yes, he is.
Pretty good between the tackles the more you
Yeah.
watch it. Like
Yeah.
that might be his strong suit. I saw somebody say he's probably the most college ready in the
Yeah.
class. But like a lot of people, and I think, you've even made comments similar that his tape is not great.
Yeah.
So I mean, out of those three, obviously, you want the two Ohio kids. I feel like if
Yeah.
you can get them both, because the other thing is, with Davis, I think the most likely of the two is Jordan Davison and Bo Jackson.
Yeah, I think so too.
But I think if you go that route, Marquise Davis goes to Michigan.
Yeah,
So,
and that sucks. that sucks. That sucks.
But then, within 24 hours of getting the job, Coach Lachlan offers two more guys.
Yeah.
So to revisit our Benedict Alfred conversations from the past, Alfred was notorious for going to South Florida, going all in and not having backup plans.
Yep.
And I don't think these two dudes that he offered are backup plans by any means, because I know you love one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he offers Shakai Mills-Knight from Tennessee.
Yeah.
Very much not a ratings guy. Like his rating is basically non-existent. His tape, on the other hand, this kid's special. A thumper.
Yeah.
And I think you'll see a bump. I think he's going to start getting more offers.
Yeah.
And then he also offered De'Aaron Hill out of Illinois, who I think he's like the 9th or 10th back on 24/7.
Yeah.
So it was really cool for me to see him come in and start putting some contingencies in place.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's anything to those two offers? Is it a sign we might not be sitting where we're sitting, or is he just being proactive?
I think, I hate to do this, but I think it might be a little bit of both. I do think he is being very proactive. I am a firm believer, if there are guys that you feel embody traits that are Ohio State level, I think you should go out and you should offer those guys. Now, whether you accept their commitment right away, that's a completely different story. But you are actively in conversation and recruiting them and being very upfront and honest with them. Okay. Like you said, I think Jordan Davidson is the big fish. When I watch his film, Travion Henderson ruined a lot of things for me when it came to when we get these top 5 running backs in the country. When I turn Travion Henderson's film on, it's just like, whoa, like it immediately jumps out at you that he's just different. The one thing that you just said that is so, so true. When you watch Jordan Davidson's film, you may think like, he's good. He's very good. But I think he is the most college ready back. And that is something that you do see on film, which makes his film good, but you're not going to see like wow play after wow play after wow play after wow play. You're going to see somebody with good vision. He's going to make the right cut and he's going to do what he has to do. And that's what makes him the number one back in the country. And so I totally get why, the Buckeyes would be enamored with him. And like you said, the big national fish, go swing at it. Go shoot your shot. I totally am for that. But if we miss, I don't want us to be in a situation where we've put Bo Jackson on the back burner. We've put, that kid from Canton McKinley, Nino Hill, we put him on the back burner. We put all these good running backs on the back burner and we missed on this guy. So now when we go to jump back in, they're like, no, I'm going to go to Kentucky or I'm going to go to Michigan. So, I think it's a little bit of both when it comes to that. I do think some of these, I think De'Aaron Hill, I think Mills-Knight, I do think they were towards the top of his board for Oregon. I truly believe that. I think they were in his top 3 to 5. That's my opinion. I could be way off on that, but based on how quickly he offered them after getting the job, shows me that if they want to commit, they're accepting their commitment. And I don't know how that would work out with Bo Jackson. I don't know how that would work out with Jordan Davidson, but man, Deer Hill and Mills Knight, they are studs. I mean, they are very good. And so I love the fact that we are branching out into different recruiting areas for running backs. One thing I will say when it comes to recruiting running backs, do not get enamored with their star rating. Okay. Running backs develop at a completely different rate. They come in the most game ready. They come in the most ready to play because their bodies have physically taken that beating, and they're most of the time they're already physically pretty developed. Like James Peoples, he came to Ohio State already jacked. Now he's even more jacked now, but he came in ready to go, right? And so don't get enamored with those star ratings. When you guys get on YouTube and you look up their highlights, watch the style of running back that they are, and then try to see how that fits into Ohio State's scheme and what they're trying to do. Don't get enamored with star ratings. Think about what Ohio State wants to do with the run game. If you look at it, they're recruiting two different types of backs. They want a bruiser, and they want somebody that they can run outside zone with, and he can either get the edge or put his foot in the ground, and it could be the biggest play. You know, he could be Travion Henderson, 3 yards, 75-yard touchdown, right? You can see that they're trying to recruit two different types of backs. So don't get enamored with that star rating when it comes to that stuff. Quinshad Judkins was a 3-star recruit at Ole Miss. Like, he was not a big-time guy, but now he's one of the best running backs in the country. So Coach Lachlan, I think he brings a different dynamic to the room, and I think he has specific things that he wants. I mean, if you look at his running back room at Oregon, I believe he had 2 guys, one guy over 1,000, another guy over 700 yards, and somebody close to 500. So there's going to be a good rotation of backs in the backfield. So I don't think you can go wrong with spreading out the board and just trying to make sure that you're getting out ahead of some of these things so that if you do miss on a Jordan Davison, that you can already have something in place and already have been recruiting somebody instead of putting them on the back burner and saying, hey, oh, by the way, we lost the number 1 guy, so now we're going to recruit you. This is so important to get those positive relationships. And I don't know for sure what Coach Alford was thinking, but oftentimes it just felt that way. It felt like we were just settling for guys. And, you know, I think that comes with, you know, why he's no longer at Ohio State. So that's long-winded answer to all that, but I just think the running back position, it's such a different position when it comes to recruiting. So don't get enamored with those recruiting rankings. I know you're going to be like, oh, Jordan Davison, he's a 5-star. He did it. And then Nino Hill, Kent McKinley is an 84 rating. Like, we don't want him. No, watch the film. Watch the film.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's actually a really great kind of lead into, you know, just the little bit of spring stuff you've heard over the last week.
Yeah.
You know, 2 things that really have jumped out to me this week are actually both running back related. So that's perfect. Dallin Hayden, listening to that young man talk about a kid that gets it.
Yeah.
You know, this is a kid who everybody wanted more of last year, but the staff had a plan in place. Excuse me. And, you know, that plan in place obviously hinged on everybody thought Travion was gone.
Yeah.
So you redshirt Dallin. Now you've got a bell horse, you know, and it didn't work out that way. But like Travion or Dallin said in an interview this week, it's going to be a long season. You know, you're staring down the barrel of 17 games. That's an NFL schedule.
Yeah.
You know, and NFL teams run 3, 4, sometimes 5 guys a game.
Yep.
So there's going to be plenty of touches. So hearing Dallin handle, we'll call it a little bit of adversity, you know, because running back is a position. Now, granted, that position has changed in the league a lot lately.
Yes, it has.
But, you know, a lot of those guys were for surefire 3 and done. But the other thing, and this is a dude who I have loved since, so it would have been 2 years ago, he started to get game time burn as a walk-on. And you know exactly where I'm going.
Yeah.
And it's TC Caffey. I mean, this dude, again, you know, like you said, don't get hung up on stars with a running back. My man was a walk-on at OSU, but this is like a 3-star, borderline 4-star walk-on.
Yeah.
This is a kid who wanted to be at Ohio State. And I don't know that they're going to be able to keep him off the field.
Yeah.
Um,
It's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
So yeah, those are kind of the two things that stood out to me from spring ball this week. That
Yeah.
and I saw a lot of the players. You hit on it last week, Jaden Bonsu. I've seen a lot of the guys start kind of giving him his credit.
Yeah.
This kid is balling out.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of the stuff that stood out for me from spring this week.
Yeah.
And then I was just looking up to make sure I was right, but Caffey is an Ohio kid.
Yeah.
So obviously,
he's from Hubbard. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what stood out to me. What'd you hear from spring practice
Yeah,
this week? Or read that?
I'm glad you hit on the running backs, man, because shout out 11 Warriors. I think they did a great job of really focusing on all the running backs, not just the big two. They got in with Hayden and they got in with TC. And so I think that's great. I know from some people within the Woody that we know when Hayden got there as a freshman, I don't know if there was a major expectation for him. But he played out of necessity. Like they didn't have anybody else to turn to, and he really capitalized on those things. I think the coaches that freshman year didn't want to have to play him as much as they did, but obviously injuries happen, things happen. You can't control those things. But if there's one thing that we know about Ohio State, they're not going to play you until you're ready in all facets of the game. In all facets of the game. Brian Hartline says it all the time about the receivers. We're not going to play you until you can do everything, and that includes blocking. Coach Alford was the same way with the running backs. And there were certain holes that Hayden had in his game that he openly talked about in his interview with 11 Warriors that he has been addressing this offseason. And I can tell you from being down there at practice, when they were doing the one-on-ones with the blitzing linebacker and the running back having to step up and block, like, the attention to detail that he has made this spring compared to where he was last spring and even just recently last season, it's such a huge difference. And so that tells me that he wants to be a Buckeye. He's fully bought into the plan that Ryan Day had for him. And like you said, if we're going to go to the Natty, it's going to be a 16, 17 game season. We're going to need 3 or 4 running backs. And so I'm so happy to see that things are starting to click for Hayden, because if he decides, and I think he will, if he sticks around, next year, he's the guy. Like, he will be the guy. So it's just really cool to hear those young guys and when they figure things out and things start to click. And I can't imagine how excited the coaching staff is about that. TC Caffey, this dude, like, first off, he's a monster. Like, seeing him in person, he is massive. And, as a freshman against Toledo, was it Toledo or Akron? One of the games we were blowing out one of the MAC schools, and he had that big 50-yard touchdown. I'm like, God, this kid's a walk-on. Like, whoa, like he's pretty good. And to see that he has worked himself into a position to where they are going to reevaluate, like, how are we going to get this guy on the field? Like, he deserves to play. And then you hear Quinn Sean talk about him, and then you hear Trey talk about him, and then you hear Dallin Hayden talk about him, and they all rave about this kid and how good he is. He was a walk-on. Now, he's not your typical walk-on, like, he was invited to come play for the Buckeyes, and he had scholarship offers out of high school. He was, full rides to Youngstown State, Charlotte, Army, things like that. But he said in that interview, I want to be a Buckeye. And so to see somebody work and grind so hard and make it to this point to where the coaches now have to think, like, God, we got to find a way to get this kid on the film. Like, it's a dream come true for him. And so I love the where the running back room is. And we talk about Coach Lachlan, and this is one of the things that really just stood out to me this week when we were thinking about spring ball and everything. The one thing that Coach Locke said is that his room will embody his mindset. You can look at the guy and probably tell he's probably headbutted a few walls. Like, he is just built different. He looks like a prison security, like a prison guard. Like, he just looks like he bench presses and does curls 24/7. and you can tell he's got certain toughness about him. And for our running backs, if they are able, and I think they will embody those things, oh my gosh, like that's going to be the next step for that group. And I'm excited to see what Coach Locke does, man. His story is just phenomenal. And so to see how hard he worked just lets me know how hard he's going to coach and give to these kids. So, that's one of the things that really stood out to me this week when it came to spring ball. I love the way, like you mentioned, Jaden Bonsu. I love the way that some of these guys are stepping up and really taking coaching and really being developed. Coach Walton and Coach G are doing a phenomenal job in the back end. And then obviously Jeremiah Smith. I mean, come on. Like, I don't like to gas people up. I don't. I want to see it first, but this guy is going to have to be on the field. I love seeing those one-on-one reps. That one-handed catch that's all over Twitter. That, first off, as a defensive coach, as a DB coach, IGB, you did a fantastic job.
Yes.
The quarterback literally had to throw it out of bounds. Okay. He had to throw it out of bounds because you had him locked up. But sometimes you can do everything right, and the person you're going against is just better. And that is what I am seeing with Jeremiah Smith. I'm not saying he's better than IGB, but he's just a freak. Like, I don't know how, like, you ever take this kid off the field, and maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, but man, like, he's just different. Like, I'm so excited to see this kid play. I'm excited for him in the spring game. That's one thing I'm looking forward to see, what plays he can make. But man, like, it's every single week, it's something new with that kid. So he's coming with the right mindset, man. And I'm just excited to see that.
I feel like Jeremiah Smith's about to bring a whole new meaning to DB's lives matter. It's not going to be pretty. I mean,
no,
you hate to gas him up, but sometimes, like you said, people are just built different sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think he's built different. I mean,
yeah. That was such good coverage by IGB. Like, I can't even, oh my gosh. Like, as a DB coach, I'm thinking, when I see that ball thrown, I'm talking trash to the wide receiver coach right now, because that quarterback just threw the ball. Oh, he threw it out of bounds and Jeremiah caught it. Dang it. Like,
yeah, I mean,
oh man, it's crazy.
You always want to use that boundary as a second defender.
Yeah.
And he did it perfectly. There's just one problem. He still caught it. So, I mean,
yeah, man. It's crazy.
I don't know how you keep him off the field. I mean, and it's crazy to think. I can't remember who tweeted it. One of the beat writers. He's like, it's frightening to think that Jeremiah Smith may be the best wide receiver on a team that has Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah.
And just shout out to that whole, we talked about the running back room. I think we hit on it, with Student Appreciation Day and stuff, but Zone 6, man, like, Marvin Harrison Jr. is still at the Woody every single day. I mean, Olave, JSN. I saw Jalen Marshall was up last week. And you're still not going to convince me at this point that Marv wanted to leave. I think Marv just had to leave.
I think he had to. I don't think he had a choice. Yeah, I don't think he had a choice, man.
So yeah, that would be exciting to see. So we look forward to talking some spring game shenanigans next week.
Yep.
And just to see, and again, I think with the way they do the spring game now, I'm assuming it's going to be very laxed. You're not going to see a big thumping hit by Gabe Powers on somebody, or you might get one. I don't know. We talked about it earlier. It might be a slow Ohio State week, but it's been a really busy week in other sports. The women's championship game just finished a little bit ago.
Yeah.
What a banger, man.
Such a good game.
I have ragged on Caitlin Clark. And I'm still going to rag on the shenanigans of Caitlin Clark. We saw it today.
Yeah, we did see it a little bit.
looking at the ref, shooting, and like I was watching the Diana Taurasi and Sue Bird broadcast.
Yeah.
Talk about entertaining stuff.
Dude, Diana Taurasi is hilarious.
And I think she is a hater. Like,
yeah,
there were some comments made that it's like, whoa, she does not like Cece. Like,
yeah. It's because many think Taurasi is the GOAT. And you got this woman, this Caitlin Clark coming in, man. She's coming for that throne.
I mean, if I'm going UConn, you got to go Brianna Stewart, though. 4 rings. How many
Brianna
gold
Stewart?
medals?
Hey, Brianna Stewart came out and said something the other day, too. Like,
right.
For her to be the GOAT, she's got to win a natty.
But, I don't want people to think that because I don't like some of the shenanigans, like, I got nothing but love for what Caitlin Clark has done for the game of women's basketball.
Absolutely.
She's made it entertaining. And it's not just her. We're watching Generation Next. I mean, you got Caitlin, Paige, Juju, and the thing that really I just can't get over, though, and it's not just because of Iowa, basketball officiating is atrocious. We saw it Friday night, and I've made no mistake, no bones. I'm a Paige Beckers fan.
Yeah.
And UConn, I'm not going to say they got hosed because was it a moving screen? Probably by the letter of the law.
Yeah.
Do you blow the whistle there? It wasn't that obvious that you blow it there to me. And the thing that stood out to me that kind of made me feel like that's the right train of thought, watching the game today, fourth quarter starts, and I'm messing around on Twitter, and you see Shannon Sharp. You see Jay Richardson, who played at Ohio State and now does Buckeye Fever on Channel 6. Mecca Don, who played at Ohio State and is now a rapper, awesome philanthropist. All of these guys, back-to-back tweets. Well, South Carolina's got to make sure they got a big enough lead so the refs can't take it away from them.
Yeah.
I'm like, so it should never be like that, though.
No.
Just like, and I'm not oh my God, they shot so many more foul shots. But South Carolina is such a paint-dominant team.
Yeah.
And for them to have half the free throws that Iowa did is a joke.
Yeah.
But it was a great game. Shout out to Coach Staley. Did not realize that she's related to New Browns running backs coach Deuce Staley.
Yeah.
So Jalen Hurts was in town today with him. And you said you watched it. So what'd you think?
Well, listen, it was must-see TV for me. I had my kids at the park. We went around 2:00 and I was like, all right, we got 55 minutes. I need 5 minutes to get home so we can get back and watch the game.
Clock's ticking, girls. Clock's ticking.
The clock is ticking. No, it's and I've said it before, man. Since having daughters and it just and then seeing, my wife and everything that women go through as far as, pregnancy and everything that they have to deal with every single day. Those women are so impactful. And it's so cool to be raising girls right now, and they can turn on the TV and be extremely excited to see Juju. My 6-year-old she's played basketball with me in the driveway, but she's not even been to a camp or anything. We said USC basketball was on the other day, and she's like, is Juju playing? And I'm like, yes, she's playing. You know what I mean? Like, that is just so cool. And so, like you were giving credit to Caitlin Clark, like, good, bad, or indifferent, however you may feel about her, she is must-see TV. I mean, she has done so much for the game of basketball when it comes to women's basketball specifically. I mean, every single game that she's had is sold out. You look at when Ohio State upset them, the shot was rocking. You know what I mean? Like, it was going crazy over there. And so, much respect to her. I just love seeing powerful, impactful women because I know my daughters are looking up to them. And so that's pretty cool. From a coach's perspective, Dawn Staley, I would send my son, my daughter, my niece, my nephew, I don't care what coach, what sport Dawn Staley's coaching. Like, she is great. It is so awesome to hear her talk and to make sure that everything is about the kids. And that's what always stands out to me. You know, a lot of times as coaches, we can get really locked in on, well, you know, my scheme did this and my philosophy did this. Like, man, you didn't do anything. You may have put the kids in the right spot and you guided them, but they're the ones out there making the plays and doing everything. And so to hear Dawn Staley today, and I wrote it down so I didn't mess it up. She said this group was different. And she said it was almost like a daycare. But she said, I had to let the kids be themselves. And it was my job to let them be themselves. And within that, I guided them to where I felt like we needed to be. And I never once asked them to be anybody else but themselves. That is what coaching is. And it blows my mind that, you know, there are people out there that think it's more than that. When you're in the business of coaching young adults, the kids need to be themselves. Are you going to draw up something's great, a great inbounds play or a great set or call a press at the right time? Yeah, that stuff's going to happen. But at the end of the day, the kids got to go out and they got to execute that stuff. And so, like, to hear Coach Staley say that, like, man, I got goosebumps. Like, I was telling my kids to be quiet in the background because it was so, so powerful. And somebody who's won 3 natties, you know, like, I think she could coach men, women, and be the same coach at that high level. So shout out to Coach Staley, man. Like, she is phenomenal, like, just phenomenal. And you can see, like, the kids are being themselves, but within their program, there's still that discipline. There was a play, and I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and act like I know a lot about basketball. The only thing I know how to do is shoot 3-pointers. Obviously, Chat and I dominated the staff game back in 2019. So you guys know that I've got a jumper. But other than that, I don't know anything. There was a play earlier in the game where Cardosa, the big 6'7" center for South Carolina, nobody on Iowa was going to guard her. She could have caught this ball and backed this person down and gone right back up, got 2 points or drew a foul. The entry pass was kind of high. She was kind of off balance. And instead of saying, like, oh, I'm going to go get this bucket because I need to get my points, she realized the situation. Like, I'm kind of off balance. It's going to allow somebody to get over and they're going to double team me. She wisely kicks it right back out to the point guard. And then they set it all up again. And, like, it was something that simple for your star player to realize, like, I could take this to the basket, but it's probably the better basketball play for me to kick it back out and set everything back up again. Like, that just showed me discipline. And I just, man, I could talk about Coach Staley all day long, man. She embodies what is great about coaching. And, you know, I hope she wins a lot more natties unless she's playing the Buckeyes. I hope the Buckeyes obviously pull that out. Hopefully, I was listening to Coach McGuff on 97.1 today, and he was saying they got some things going on in the portal. I don't know what that means. Maybe we could get Van Lith to come up here.
Give me Haley Van Lith.
I mean, I don't know. Oh, I don't know. We got to replace Sheldon. We got to replace JC.
Exactly. So,
well, I think Haley, you could come up here and be yourself. You could come up here and be, you know,
talk about playing with swagger. Haley Van Lith. Yeah. I think the 2 Oregon girls end up here, both Ohio girls.
Yeah.
If HVL ends up here, though, I mean, she's got soul. Like, there's no other way to put it. I mean, you hit on something about Coach Staley letting her players be themselves. And, you know, we talk about Corey Chapman multiple times on here. Shout out Corey Chapman. You know, we've talked about my son and being a bowler, and bowling is a sport that has a very old school mentality a lot of times.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know how to handle swagger.
Yep.
It would have been, so Chat started coaching the boys their sophomore years, or my son's sophomore year. And as Chat put it, he got handed the keys to a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And this was a solid squad. But what Chat allowed those boys to do was be themselves. I will never forget, and that was a COVID year. So things were weird during the COVID year. We are bowling the MOAC conference tournament in Galleon. Jaden basically strikes, he shot a spare. I think it was a split, but it was a dagger. Basically clinched the conference tournament championship. And he does the Deshaun Watson bow and arrow on the approach. And you would have thought he kicked everybody in that building's puppy except ours.
Oh my gosh.
But, and of course, Chat told him, he goes, I got you. Like, and then there was another tournament that same year. It's a classic case of in any sport, you see it. I watched Remember the Titans the other night. It came on, when the game where the gentleman wouldn't exchange tape with Coach Boone, and the bully got bullied and they didn't know how to act. So there was a team we were bowling, local team, and they were used to being the loudest team in the room. And, that was their game. Come in, be loud, try to intimidate. And Baker bowling gets loud.
Yeah.
High school, college, it doesn't matter. So at the time, during the COVID year, you had like empty lanes between you. Like you guys were on one pair, then you had like one or two empty pairs. So Jaden strikes and walks one out about 4 lanes toward the team that's the loudest team in the room and just goes like this and flexes on them, like staring them down. And so shout out Coach Chat.
Yeah, man.
Sorry for the tangent, but
no, it's all good. It's all good, man.
So what's this rant today?
Yeah, I've been going. I had a Mike Tomlin moment. All right. Mike Tomlin was on the pivot and he said, a lot of coaches resist the responsibility of coaching. And that is something that, when I was watching Don Staley today, when I'm watching Paige Beckers talk about being resilient and different things like that, like I just want to bring so much light to the fact that it is our job as coaches to just guide these young people and to help mold them. But at the end of the day, they are the ones that are going to go out there and perform at the highest level. And it's our job to empower them. It's our job to cultivate whatever it is that motivates them from the inside. We've got to find a way to cultivate that and bring the best out of it. And coming from somebody who has failed at doing that as a coach, and then had to realize I needed to change these things in order to get where we needed to be. Like, it's just so important. So I cannot stress enough to youth coaches, to AAU basketball coaches, to travel baseball coaches, to bowling coaches, gymnastics coaches, whatever. It is not about us. And I know there are so many coaches out there that firmly believe that, but at the end of the day, just love on the kids and guide them. And when they make a mistake, that's when you dive in and you coach them. Or in those in-game moments where they may not know exactly what to do, that's where you coach them. But if they come to the sideline or they come to you and say, hey, coach, I saw this, this, and this, don't shoot them down. Ask them why. All right, well, what else did you see off to the side? Or what did you see here? Like, these kids are smart. That's the one thing I can't stand. As somebody who's a teacher, you've got a son who's a teenager, right? Like, this generation of kid is fantastic. They're just exposed to so much more stuff that we weren't exposed to growing up. So the kids haven't changed. The kids are fantastic. The kids are awesome. It's us. We have to adapt to them. For years, we had to adapt to the coach. I hated when Coach Hinton used to yell at me. I hated when Coach Brady used to yell at me, right? But I didn't have a choice. I couldn't go home and say, well, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go bowling or I'm going to go play another sport. I couldn't do that. These kids can do that now. So how can we keep them motivated? And how can we keep them entertained? They are exposed to so much more these days. So the kids haven't changed. And you see it at the highest level with South Carolina, letting the kids be kids. Coaches, get out of the way. Guide them, help them, but do not think they've got there because of you and what you did. You may have played a small part in that, but it was always the kid. Like, don't ever forget that. One of the coolest things, I'll get off my rant. I had a kid when I first got to Findlay. Everybody told me this kid is a jerk. He's not going to be coachable. He's a know-it-all. He's this, he's that, he's that, he's that. And I'm not going to lie to you, we butted heads a little bit. But when I realized he is just trying to do what he sees out there and what he feels is best for the defense, we sat down and we talked it out. We watched film together. I would ask him what he sees. Well, what do you see right here? Why do you think, I called cover 1 here. Why do you think, we could have rolled to cover 3 and brought some pressure and didn't have to play man coverage behind it? Why do you think that, T? And he'd be like, well, based on the wide receiver's leverage, like the quarterback was not going to go to his side. So I just felt like we could have stayed. Like, it was football, real, genuine conversations. And when he heard me sit back and say, okay, let's try it, the kid took it to another level. His leadership, his want to, his desire, his willingness to sacrifice for his teammates. And it wasn't anything that I did. I just shut my mouth and I let him listen. I sat there and listened. I let him talk. I let him tell me what he saw. I wanted to know his why. Fast forward, my niece is playing in an AAU basketball game at Ohio Northern. This kid goes to Ohio Northern. I sit there and text him and I say, hey, I'm here. If you're on campus, stop by. This kid sat through, and he's got his friends waiting outside. He sat through the entire game with me and my dad. And you would have thought my niece was his niece. Like, he was so invested in what my niece was doing and what we were talking about and what we were trying to pour into my niece. And it's like, that's why you coach. That's why I coach. It wasn't to win an NLL championship. It was to see somebody say, you know what, Coach Slater let me be myself, and I'm always going to be thankful for that. And now he's talking about wanting to be a coach, and now he's, a leader on the team at ONU. And it's just like, dog, like, man, like, that is what it is about. And so I had to get on my rant because Don Staley just like really brought that out of me, man. It was just it's so powerful. So coaches, let the kids be kids. We have to adapt to them. Like, let's just be real about it. We have to adapt to them, especially at the high school level. So that's my rant. I'll shut up.
Well, it's funny you say that, though, because we actually kind of saw the opposite of that the other night. Kim Mulkey left Haley Van Lith on an island that entire game. You cannot guard Caitlin Clark with one person.
Yeah.
And, so Van Lith is getting shredded. And Mulkey never came out and said, that's on me. So that's kind of the opposite end of what you're saying. And it's funny that you talk about a kid coming to sit and watch a game. I'm going to do a shout out early. I'm going to shout out LJ Scott. I never coached LJ. LJ and I just kind of got acquainted, and I have sat and watched multiple baseball games of my sons with LJ sitting there the whole time just because of the affinity that he had for my son. LJ was a GA at the University of Akron, and we were playing a tournament up there, and he came and sat and watched and was invested.
Yeah.
And, so shout out, but that's a kid who gets it. And I think, I would be floored if LJ Scott is not the head coach at Marion Harding at some time in the future. I'm just going to throw that out there. I just don't see how it doesn't happen. He falls under that Jared Slater, Corey Chapman, Tim Henton, leader of men. Like, you can be a coach. And there are guys out there that are good coaches, and that's, they leave the facility and they go home. But then there are guys, like you said, who are there for the kids.
Yeah.
I never coached anything at a high level. I was, I didn't want to be a dad coach. Like when I knew when Jaden got to a certain age, I was going, I'm done. I don't want to. But there are kids who I've coached and not even coached in a sport that know they could come to me right now. And if they got an issue, we're going to figure it out.
Yep.
So, shout out to those types of guys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And
You know,
don't get it twisted. Trust me, I want to win. I want to win at the highest level. I love that feeling, right? But it's just so important, man. Like, I just remember coming back to Harding in that 0-10 year changed my perspective on everything. And so, like, when I think about how, like, my wife and I used to talk about this, like, what are your wins and losses? I had a kid get baptized last Sunday, and he said I helped play a part in that. That's a win. And you might call me soft, and you might say, like, yeah, but you guys lost in the first round of the playoffs. Care. A kid thought enough to reach out to me on arguably one of the most important days of his life. And so, like, those are the wins, man. Those are the wins. When I see a kid, I see a Robert Abrams at Meyer, and he's balling out as a coach. And then I got teachers and administrators saying, like, hey, we got this young guy on the staff at the middle school, Robbie Abrams. He's like killing it. And it's like, to see those light switches turn on for these young men, like, oh my God, man, like, come on. Like, how could you value a W? And trust me, I want all the W's, but I don't value a W more than I value that kid making an impact in his community. Yeah, I want to win at the highest level, but if I can go out here and do these things and help these kids and just be a positive influence, like, heck yeah, like, that's what it's about, man. So, you know, I'm done ranting.
Dude,
I can't.
I'll take life dubs over on the field dubs any day.
Absolutely.
You know, so real quick, you know, we talked about the women's. We got the men's national title game tomorrow night. Go Huskies!
Yes, please.
I cannot stomach Zach Edey winning a natty. I can't
either.
I mean,
I can't either.
The guy's a great college basketball player, but again, you know, you breathe on him, it's a foul. Yeah. You know, he's single leg take that. He can give somebody a stone cold stunner, and they'd get called for the foul.
Yeah.
So yeah, go Huskies. You know, like we said, Masters coming up this week, so that's kind of where we want to roll to for our Mount Rushmore. I'm not gonna lie, I could have put all four of these as Tiger Woods moments.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
I had to change one so it wasn't all Tiger Woods.
Same.
Yeah.
So I actually ranked mine this time.
Okay. All right.
So we're gonna go number 4, the one non-Tiger Woods moment. 2004, Phil Mickelson.
Okay. All right.
You know, that was before the whole live golf and, you know, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But Phil winning finally getting that green jacket was cool. So then I actually am going to change it up from the way I have this listed. I'm going to go the 97 Tiger Woods victory.
Yeah.
You know, 12 shot lead, or just pure dominance.
Pure dominance.
Then this was tough. Second, we're going to go the 05 Tiger chip in on the 16th hole. You can't, you know, that just epic.
Yeah.
And then my number 1 is the 19 Tiger win.
Yeah.
You know, Tiger became a thing when we were young. And, you know, just like MJ with basketball and LeBron for this era, you know, seeing him fight through everything that he had fought through, the transgressions in his personal life that, you know, who knows? There's 3 sides to every story when it comes to that stuff. The back surgeries, everything. You know, will he ever golf again? Will he ever be himself again to win another Masters?
Yeah.
So that's my 4.
That's a good 4. You just forced me to change one of mine. That was a good 4. It's a very good 4. So if you know me, Tiger Woods is my favorite athlete of all time. And it's not even, you know, LeBron's up there, but that, like, he's got a ways to go before he gets to Tiger. Side note, Paige Beckers is getting up there for me too, because I just have so much respect for her. But Tiger Woods is like, he represents like a huge shift in my life as a young light skin, African American male, biracial, whatever, like just to see, not even lights, just to see somebody of color on TV doing those things at such a young age, for me, always will stand out to me. So I got 4. I'll put them in order. I'll put them in order. All right. It's going to be tough, but I'll put them in order. So number 4 for me would be 2012, Bubba Watson. When he won the Masters, the tears, the embrace, like the pink driver, just like everything that went into that, like that was just such a cool moment. And I have, regardless PGA Live, whatever, I just have respect for Bubba because he didn't do it the conventional way. A lot like our running back coach, our new running back coach. He didn't do it the conventional way. He didn't go get all the great lessons and different things like that. He just picked up a club and started playing golf and got really good at it his way. And so to see him get that ultimate prize of the green jacket, like that will always stand out to me. The next one would be when Tiger completed the Tiger Slam in 2001. I just remember listening to people say it couldn't be done. And I was young. I was only a freshman in high school. I thought I was some great golfer going out to Green Acres all the time. But I would just overhear conversations that people didn't think that he could get it done. And so to see him get the Tiger Slam, something that nobody had done, like, I just thought, man, like how cool is that? Such an impactful moment. And I remember watching it with my dad, which was pretty cool. Number 2 for me would definitely be 2019 Tiger, finally, after everything, getting that W, getting that major, and embracing his kids, his son, his daughter afterwards. Like that was so cool. That was such a full circle moment for him. Obviously all the transgressions that he dealt with and the things that he did in his personal life that were his doing, but to just battle back and persevere and to see the way that his kids were looking at him walking off that green, like that was awesome. And then number 1 for me, 97 Masters. I remember watching that with my dad. I remember my dad being emotional, like just pure dominance. And I know during that time, it wasn't easy for Tiger to be, out there. There's tons of stories about all the different things that he and his dad had to deal with when Tiger was growing up and going out to these courses that didn't really, want minorities, want African Americans on their golf course and things like that. And to see the discipline that his dad had instilled in him to put on the blinders, block out everything. I'm locked in on this moment. I'm locked in on this shot. And then to kind of see it all come to fruition in 97, to get that Masters, to get that green jacket, like that's one of the greatest sports moments of all time. And so to see that and see the trajectory of his career after that, like, and then the commercials, I am Tiger Woods. Like I had posters all over my wall. I had every book that was made about him. Like Tiger Woods, man, it's hard for me to not pick 4 Tiger Woods moments, but that would be my 4 Masters moments. I love the Masters. It's like, it's up there for me. It's up there with like the National Football Championship and the Super Bowl. Like I love watching the Masters. So that would be my 4. That'd be my Mount Rushmore of Masters moments.
It's definitely a spectacle.
Yeah.
One little caveat, we've both talked about Paige Beckers and UConn, and I didn't realize it until I saw it the other day. Gigi Bryant would be headed to UConn in the fall. So yeah, that kind of hit the feels, especially with Paige saying she's coming back, and it's like, man, you don't realize that that's where we're at.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so as far as what's on deck this week, who knows? It sounds like there might be a couple recruiting booms for us to talk about next week with the spring game stuff. We'll see what else happens.
Side note, I figured out. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I figured out how to get the video on StreamYard, on our streaming platform. So highlights, game film, things like that will be coming soon. We got to figure out exactly how we want to do it, whether it's a separate episode or incorporated in the episode. And so those things are coming. I finally figured it out on my own. I'm proud of myself. So that's a side note for us.
Awesome. Apologies to, our Spotify fans. Spotify is being really, really weird.
I wish it won't even let me get to the page to upload the episodes. I've tried it on different, and I paid the bill. I know. I know that.
We are trying to figure that out. But so we'll see what happens this week. What else? A couple weeks from now, though, is going to be a lot of fun. I don't want to even go into anything because we don't even know the how yet.
Yeah.
But just know it's going to be sweet.
Yeah.
I gave my shout out earlier to LJ, so that's my shout out for the week. Go ahead and shoot your shot.
I haven't shouted him out yet, and everybody knows my affinity for Coach Hinton. But I also want to give a big shout out to John Brady, my guy. Talk about a player's coach. Love this guy's almost to a fault. I remember got my first picture in the Marion Star my senior year, and 7 a.m. the next day, because he gave us a Saturday off, which never happened. Or he let us come in at 9 o'clock. And so he called me 7 a.m. He was like, dude, they got this ugly kid in the newspaper, man. Like, I don't know what he's doing. He's got a football in his hand. And I went downstairs and my mom was looking at it. She already had it cut out and put on the on the refrigerator. And so shout out to Coach Brady, man. He's one of the real reasons why I got into this coaching thing, because he did it the right way, regardless of what many people think. He's one of the greatest athletes to ever come through Harding, and he's a Prexy through and through. People always forget he was drafted by the Packers. People forget he was an All-American and everything at Toledo. Like, he was a dog. And so shout out to Coach Brady, man. That's my guy. Will forever be my guy. He's living it up in Florida and enjoying retirement on the golf course every single day. So shout out to Coach Brady.
Yeah, and little brother Chris is killing it as the DC. So well, cool deal. As always, we appreciate all the support. I know I've kind of been slacking on our social medias. We're going to get back up and running. We do have a TikTok now, so I will get that out there. Just keep supporting us, keep grinding along, and we're going to keep pumping stuff out for you guys. As always, we appreciate